My talk will be about securing our digital DNA, the source code sovereignty. Let's see how that goes. It's the first time I'm doing such kind of a talk, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts afterwards, how that went actually. So I'm Tobias. I work at Vision, as already introduced by Patrick in the beginning. I started here 10 years ago. Actually, it's more than 10 years, but yeah, that's another story. For example, between beers and so. So in an age where most of our code lives on platforms like GitHub and GitLab, we need to ask ourselves, do we really know where our most valuable digital assets should be stored or are stored today? And do we have still control over that? Over the next few slides, I will talk a bit more about this topic, and I will show you a little amount of alternatives, mainly focusing on Europe and on Switzerland, of course. I hope by the end of this talk, you will have some thoughts in your head to take home and think about this topic. Let's see. So just like DNA contains the instructions for life, I would say source code contains the instructions for our digital world. Without source code, nothing happens. Of course, besides data. But data would not be here if we would not have code. So code produces data. So every action, every application, and every digital product starts with source code. Even the paddle book started with source code. No source code, no paddle book. Yeah. So when you write the code, when we write code, we write the blueprints of our digital future, actually. And this somehow brings us to the questions, where and how should we store these absolutely critical digital assets? Asset besides code, actually. Data, sorry, besides data. So that's me, I'm Tobias. Today at Vision, I'm wearing the hat as a product manager. Being here for 10 years since the start of the company, I did a lot of things in Vision's history, but nowadays I'm doing some product management stuff here. I'm based in Zurich, I've grown up here. I'm in IT since year 2000. Every time I see this number, I'm a bit shocked. It's such a long time. And I absolutely love open source. Everything we do at Vision is around open source. And you can find me on Mastodon. Here's the URL for that. Why should we talk about this topic now? Why not yesterday? Why not tomorrow? Why now? You might have heard things happening this week in the world which will shape the future. What happens in the next 4 years, we will figure out. So I think I wrote this talk before, but it's a good timing now, I would say. So there are some global tensions going on in the digital world. We could talk about tech wars. I don't know how far this goes, but we hear about it in news all the time. So with the recent conflicts going on, we see how vulnerable also the digital infrastructure is today. So maybe companies should start thinking about backup plans for their crucial systems here. Also, the economic reality has changed a bit in the past, so we hear a lot of cloud cost rising, except you go to a 0 Swiss francs strategy per month. But usually big companies, they pay a lot to cloud infrastructure these days. Also, you read more and more stories of companies switching from cloud to on-premise again, or to private cloud infrastructures these days. Also, the AI revolution. Maybe you've heard of it, I'm not sure. But there is things going on. Tools like GitHub Copilot is on the rise, and this also raises questions about, should our code, or do we want our code to be used for training their AI models? Things to think about. Also, data protection laws. If you read news all day, there is a new regulation coming up in the EU, in Switzerland. And it's all affecting us and how we work with data and where our code is stored. Actually, did you think about this topic lately, where your source code is stored? Or is this just given for you where I push and then it's okay for me? Okay, that's what I thought. It was me as well in the past. I did not think about that, just push it, that's okay. But things have changed slightly in my head. So with that, let's have a look at the current state of source code hosting. Where are we today? Let's do a reality check. Who of you is using GitHub? Okay, who is using gitlab.com probably? Ah, that's cool because that's reality. So it's about 82% of market share is going to GitHub, a huge number. 100 millions of developers are using GitHub daily to do their job. They say they store over 330 million code repositories. That's an incredible amount of data. And 90% of the Fortune 100 companies are using GitHub. It's incredible, unbelievable actually. GitLab is second on the market, but it's only 7% market share. I mean, it's a huge difference between GitHub and GitLab. And actually 30 million developers and 100 million repositories are using GitLab these days. There are others, maybe Bitbucket you've heard of, Azure DevOps from Microsoft as well, AWS Code Commit, and a lot of others. But they do not carry this. They do not fit into these numbers here. They are too small to be compared to them. But it's, yeah.
This is only the hosted version of those.
Yeah, that's about the hosted versions. Yes, exactly. The self-hosted looks a bit different. It's not only about source code hosting. It's also about collaboration. So we use these platforms to track issues. We use these platforms to raise pull requests and do code reviews. I mean, we also use it for the whole development life cycles. We have the CI/CD pipelines there. We do potentially dependency management with tools helping us to keep the dependencies up to date or to figure out if a dependency vanishes. They are providing AI-powered development environment these days, like the GitHub Copilot, as already mentioned. Some of these already also offer integrated cloud development environment. Think of GitHub Workspaces, for example. So you don't have to leave your browser, just spin up and everything happens on their platform. Also, a lot of knowledge is stored in these platforms, actually. So they are offering wikis, they are offering community collaboration stuff. It's all very increasingly pulling them, they are pulling it into their platforms, actually. So think of that. Why does this matter today? Why should we think about these topics? I've already mentioned it. There is a lot of value behind source code. So it's actually probably the most important digital assets besides data you are producing in your company, because it's the blueprint of what you're doing as a business is tied into the source code. On these platforms, you have the whole development history and knowledge. Think of issues where engineers discussed a certain topic. Think of pull requests where you can learn how and why something has been done this way or has been changed or whatever. It's a lot of value, not just the code, but also the metadata around your code. The code contains the key business processes and workflows for your business, actually. And yeah, it's the foundation for innovation. Without code, no innovation happens in the digital world. I see a few risks with the current landscape, which you have seen before. We are really relying on US platforms. I mean, that's a given. GitHub, everything is US-based, the company and the platform. GitLab is also US-based, the company and the platform. Atlassian is an Australian company, actually, but the whole cloud infrastructure is mostly hosted at AWS, an American company, so everything is there somehow. So this raises, of course, all these data privacy and sovereignty concerns for us in Europe, actually, because you know the US Cloud Act, which allows the US Regierung, how is it called? Government, thank you, to look into your data even if you're a European company. Yeah, I mean, you're putting all your data on their platform, so you lose control. So I have read this morning a story which I want to tell you now is, have anyone of you heard of Post-Market OS? Maybe not. It's a thank you, Simon. It's an operating system which you can put on your old phones to revive your old phones so that they don't get electronic waste, so you can use it again, hopefully. And they were starting GitLab.com like 8 years ago. They were very generous, giving them free space, and so they built up a community there. Over time, GitLab.com has raised the bars in accessing their platform because they put it behind Cloudflare. It was getting annoying to access GitLab.com. they were raising the bar in registering accounts. Like nowadays, if you register for an account at gitlab.com, you have to provide your full name, your credit card numbers, and whatnot. So they now figured out, okay, oh, we have a problem. Our community members, they would like to contribute, but they can't because potentially some of them, they don't have a credit card number or they want to stay anonymous or so. That's not possible anymore. So they have limited control over their community because it's dictated by gitlab.com. So they decided earlier this year to move to a self-hosted GitLab environment where they have full control over their data again. So that's just one example which I read this morning in the news. And then, of course, the vendor lock-in challenges. So, think of pipelines. Huh? If you write a pipeline for GitHub Actions and you want to move to GitLab CI, you have to rewrite all your pipelines. Good luck. Same for issues. If you want to move to another platform, there is no guarantee that you can move over this wisdom you have in your issues. So the longer you wait, the harder it gets to move out of such a platform. One thing I forgot to add a point here. Who of you can still deploy if GitHub is down? Not so many, I see. So think of that. GitHub is not so well known of 100% or 99.99% uptime. So if you think back of the numbers of 100 millions of developers using GitHub, when GitHub is down, they cannot do their job. Maybe not so good. But I don't want to scare you too much. So maybe we should have a look at solutions and alternatives out there because it's not all in GitHub. I went out to look at European specific alternatives. So maybe the best well-known is codeberg.org. Anyone knows it? Yeah, not so many. 1, 2. It's based on Fortschau. It's run by a non-profit organization in Germany. There is one drawback. It's only for open source projects. So if you want to put your business code there, which is closed source, you are not actually welcome there. But for self-hosted alternatives, GitLab is probably the most used one in the world today. So if you search for managed GitLab hosting in EU, you will find a lot of them. GitLab Host, Stack Hero for GitLab, Code-centric GitLab, a multitude of others. It would have made the slide very big if I would have listed all here. So just search for them and you will find them. So GitLab is all over the place. Then we do have a lot of Swiss alternatives as well. So first and foremost, there is Kodi.ch, which happens to be a new product which we are working on at Vision. It's also based on Fortschau, but the difference to Codeberg is that you get your own instance and you're free to put whatever code you want on this platform. So you get your own instance of this software. But also managed GitLab is very common in Switzerland. If you Google just for GitLab hosting in Switzerland, you will find a lot of them. Vision also provides such a service, Ops1, Naveum, and a multitude of others. So you see GitLab is all over the place here. You could also do it yourselves. So there is self-hosting is also an alternative. You could use GitLab in the Enterprise or Community Edition. You could even install GitHub in your data center if you wish. There is a GitHub Enterprise server offering available. The Atlassian Bitbucket server is available. Then GT, Fortschau, or Gox you could use. A few words to that. Gox was the initial version of a modern or new self-hosted community Git hosting platform. Was started a few years back, but it's not very active. So GT forked Gox and they moved forward with developing the software. Some time ago, they went into an open core model, so that's where Fortschau was born. So they forked GT, so you see it's all a bit forking around stuff. And of course, there is SourceHot, or you can use your own server with SSH and just use that to store your code. All of this has in common that most of this software is developed in, you guess, America. So GitLab is developed in the US, GitHub is developed in the US, Atlassian is also developed in the US. Of course, it's an Australian company, but the developers live in America. GT is an American company now. SourceCode is from America. I mean, the only one which is from near ours is ForgeShow. So the most people contributing to this project are from Germany and other European countries. But all the others, America. Incredible. What could we do now? I mean, it's very simple. Just think for yourself, what code assets do you have? Does it matter where they are lived or not? Do this for yourself or for your company if you're interested to do that. Then also do some evaluations of sovereignty. What happens if the code is used by GitHub for training their models? Is that a problem for you? Do you have a vendor lock-in? Probably, which is upcoming if you use more and more GitHub features, just like these thoughts for yourself. And then define the control requirements. Where does your data have to live? What access control policies you need, and so on and so forth. And based on these findings, you might be able to have an idea what you want to do with your source code in the future. Should it stay at GitHub or not? For me, it's not like a switch to flip. You can also host code repositories on GitHub and GitLab on-premise, for example. It does not have to be all at the same place. Some takeaways from my short talk here. Source code is critical. Maybe that's clear. It's your company's digital DNA. It contains years of knowledge and decisions, and it powers your daily operations. A lot of source code is hosted on US-based services on GitHub. There are AI and data sovereignty concerns, upcoming infrastructure dependencies to these companies. There are alternatives out there in Switzerland and in EU. You could also use local hosting on your premises with self-hosted alternatives. And you can start small, just figure out your needs and then move to another platform if intended so. Of course, some marketing has to be done here as well. If you think you want to move your source code potentially to Europe or to a Swiss-based company, have a look at Kodi. At one, it's hosted in Switzerland, it's run by a Swiss company, and the software behind it, ForgeShow, is developed mostly in EU. So probably an interesting take to do. Yeah, that's it from my side. If you have any questions, then please let me know. Here's the QR code again. Yeah. Any questions from your side?
So I like the style of GitHub Actions. I find them very convenient. I even have my own self-hosted runners, but they're connecting to github.com. Is there any kind of, and so it's sort of free in a sense because I'm self-hosting. Is there any kind of thing where it's like free and not directly connecting to github.com? I mean, would I be able to completely self-host and still have like GitHub run GitHub style actions?
That's good that you're asking because ForgeShow supports GitHub Actions, so you can fully move.
Sign up right now.
That's good. You can just copy paste your GitHub Actions to ForgeShow and connect your ForgeShow runner, and then you're up and running.
Can I use my self-hosted runner?
Yes. Yes.
So you were talking about US dependencies and US centricity a bit there. In that frame, are you able to talk about where Kodi and Vision's hosted GitLab are physically running?
Yeah, in Rümlang.
Is it?
In Rümlang. It's running at cloud scale, actually, and cloud scale has data centers in Rümlang and Ludwig, so in Canton Aargau and Canton Zurich. So you can go there and visit it.
Thank you.
You have a question about the self-hosted versions of GitHub, for instance, what I'm seeing in large companies. So is it still connecting somehow to GitHub and training the model, or is it really separated?
I'm not a GitHub Enterprise Server expert, but I doubt that this code will be used to train their AI models. I doubt that. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it will send telemetry data, but I'm unsure if they will use the code hosted on GitHub Enterprise to train their AI. No.
maybe just a cautionary word to everybody, if you're interested in this, even if you do host it here, one of your policies needs to be controlled access by location. Because if someone's doing pulls of the repositories in a Five Eyes country, your dependency on the US is still there.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So
I
you need to be
always
really
joke
careful
that
about
I have a good backup of my data at NSA. So.
Yeah, and it's NSA 702, anything that traverses an international boundary with the US, which you don't know, right? When you go through AWS, if you haven't fixed your data somewhere, it can traverse through whichever route they want. They snatch a copy.
Yeah, I mean,
If you're really obsessed with this
if
stuff,
you
and I'm not
if you're
personally,
really obsessed, then you should live in Switzerland. Make sure that your ISP has a connection to SwissIX, because CloudScaler is on SwissIX as well, and then you might be sure that your packets are not traveling outside of the Swiss border,
you
because
put
it
your
travels
route,
to the
put your Route
SwissIX.
53 in the wrong location, and they got it
Yeah,
out.
of course. Yeah. Any other question? Then I will be around for beers. If you have any other questions, just hit me up later. Thanks.
Okay.